Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is for a book. First of all, I'd like to say happy publication day to this book. Let me get it. It's called Unmasked, My Life Solving America's Cold Cases by Paul Holes, but it also says with Robin Gary Fisher. Now, this is a book that I've had for maybe 3 months, but I am kind of a procrastinator in a big way, but I did finish this book several days ago, and I'd like to get this video up today, and I'm going to put this on my blog today. Now, it's a true crime book. Now, so that I don't have to hold the book up, I'm going to throw the screenshot up of the book for you. It's a true crime book, which is, of all the genres that I read, it would be my least favorite of the genres that I read. There are genres that I don't read, like horror or paranormal, but true crime isn't easy for me to read because of some issues that I have with my sleeping. So I was my cat's up here wanting to look outside. So I was a little concerned as to whether or not I would be able to handle this book, but rather than go on and on, I'm always moving things around when the cat comes to join me while I'm making videos. So let's talk about this book. The first thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and read some of the information on the back. I might read it all, we'll see. Now, this is an uncorrected proof, which is an advanced reader's copy. This will be in hardcover format. And let's just tell you really quickly, it's $14.99 at the Kindle store in hardcover format, 288 pages. But a lot of times when you get advanced reader copies, they come in trade paperback format. That's just a way to get these books into reviewers' hands. So let's learn about who Paul Holes is. Now, I want to say something else. I don't watch true crime television at all, ever. I don't watch IDTV or ID Notify. I don't watch any of those shows or networks, but I guess he is a really, he's a celebrity in those type of shows that feature solving crimes. So kudos to him for being so skilled at what he does. So let's go back to the back of the book. From the detective who found the Golden State Killer, a memoir of investigating America's toughest cold cases and the rewards and toll of life-solving crime. There were rewards, but there were also tolls to pay. He says, I order another bourbon, neat. This is the drink that will flip the switch. I don't even know how I got here to this place, to this point. Something is happening to me lately. I'm drinking too much. My sheets are soaking wet when I wake up from nightmares of decaying corpses. I order another drink and swig it, trying to forget about the latest case I can't shake. Crime solving for me is more complex than the challenge of the hunt or the process of piecing together a scientific puzzle. The thought of good people suffering drives me, for better or worse, to the point of obsession. People always ask how I am able to detach from the horrors of my work. Part of it is an innate capacity to compartmentalize. The rest is experience and exposure, and I've had plenty of both. But I had always taken pride in the fact that I can keep my feelings locked up to get the job done. It's only been recently that it feels like all that suppressed darkness is beginning to seep out. When I look back at my long career, there's a lot I am proud of. I have caught some of the most notorious killers of the 21st century and brought justice and closure for their victims and families. I want to tell you about a lifetime solving these cold cases, from Lacey Peterson to J.C. Duggar to the Pittsburgh homicides to, yes, my 20-year-long hunt for the Golden State Killer. But a deeper question eats at me as I ask myself, at what cost? I have sacrificed relationships, joy, even fatherhood, because the pursuit of evil always comes first. Did I make the right choice? It's something I grapple with every day. Yet, as I stand in the spot where a young girl took her last breath, as I look into the eyes of her family, I know that for me, there has never been a choice. I don't know if I can solve your case, I whisper, but I promise you I will do my best. And it's a promise I can keep. I'm really glad I read this book. I loved the dedication that Mr. Holz has towards the victims and the families of these victims. Now, I don't quite know what to say about this book because my notes are extensive. I rarely take notes on a book, but because this is true crime, it's a memoir of sorts, I didn't want to lose anything important while I was reading this book. And yes, I read it as a print arc. I don't have it in any other format, so I definitely read it page by page. And I say that because a lot of times I use Kindle Text-to-Speech or Audible or my library or whatever. But here we have a detective who is not a detective, a criminalist, okay? He's a criminalist. And he starts with case after case after case, looking especially at cold cases, a case that gets put to rest because it's unsolved. Now, one of the people it starts off with is somebody named Carla Walker in 1974. Or then it goes to the Golden Gate Killer. Then there was something EAR, East Area Rapist. Then there was ONS. I can't remember what ONS was. But he had these different, there was different abbreviations for, the one, Overnight Stalker. ONS was Overnight Stalker. So you had all of these intense cases that would either come across Paul's desk or things that he would just insanely research. He might start off with a little pebble of information, and then he would take it and he would dig and he would dig and he would dig. As the blurb said, the most notable case was the Golden Gate Killer. Now, quite naturally, I Googled it. Now, different people are attributed to bringing that killer to justice. But when you read this book, it was something that Paul did that I loved learning about. And I did jot it down. It was, where is it, Robin? Oh, DNA segment triangulation. DNA technology improves year after year, decade after decade. Now, I wrote down DNA results in research get better every year. DNA that failed to convict 20 years ago can be used with today's advanced scientific methods to pull facts together and to be effective in solving cases. There's, like, for example, how Paul became a criminalist. As a kid, he grew up watching Quincy. Now, I loved Quincy. If you remember that show with Jack Klugman, where he was a criminalist, but he was also kind of like a detective. Well, that's what Paul ended up becoming. That's what drove him, is that initial curiosity about that particular television show. Now, what I liked about him is he had an amazing investigative process. Okay, when he wanted answers to questions, they were answers that would never be found, to the point where a case would be shelved or shoved into a box. And then there was the humanity, the human side of Paul. Like, for example, how can a loving God allow such cruelty to exist? The cruelty that he was speaking of is the sickness in the minds of serial killers. He had to balance that. Another thing he had to balance was he was a family man. He was married to, I think Lori was his first wife. He was married, they had 2 children, but eventually they drifted apart. He, as the blurb said, he sacrificed fatherhood. Yes, he gave up important time that he should have been spending with his family as he became fully invested in these cases. Then there was a question about safety. How do I put this? How did people change over the course of time the more these killers were at large? So women had to learn to be safe. Have to. It's an ongoing thing. And then we also had the fact that it was questioned more than once whether Paul was obsessed. And if he was obsessed, how often did his obsession lead to frustration? And then the pinnacle of his career, yes, was the Golden Gate Killer. Excellent, excellent book. Now, I've said a lot. Does it mean that, oh, well, I don't have to read the book, Robin? You just told us the whole thing. No, I didn't. It's 288 pages in hard copy. I probably gave you 5% of what's in this book. There's still 95% of it for you to glean yourself. And, oh, that fear that I had about worrying whether I would have night terrors. No. This was done with dignity and respect. And, yeah, there were some details here that were difficult to read. Actually, there were some details here that were heartbreaking. There was even a point where I actually cried when I was reading this book. With all that said and done, and I'm going to drop the digital image and put this back up, go ahead and get this book. It's a very, very good read. Now, does it mean I'm going to run over to IDTV or to Discovery or whatever network and watch Mr. Holes? Probably not, because I just don't do true crime. But by the way, this is who he is. Handsome fella, isn't he? All right, so that'll be it. And I'm going to get this one edited and uploaded. And I think I've got 3 or 4 more. But thank you for watching. Bye-bye.